What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with everything that the government does. Now, we got a lot of craziness going on in the country right now. In case you didn't know, we got a crisis on our southern border, and we got all kinds of stuff, right? The economy's bad, but they're trying to tell us, no, the economy's great. But, you know, the grocery store doesn't say so. Neither does my checkbook. It doesn't say so either. But, you know, jobs are good, right? Right, they're creating so many jobs out there, you guys. But hang on. They're giving them to illegal aliens, to criminal aliens. So, you know, who cares if there's tons of jobs that the government's creating? They're not giving them to U.S. citizens. They're dumping our money into a war that can't be won, I don't think. You know, let me know what you think down in the comments section, but we just got a bunch of craziness going on right now, and to top all that off, the whole pro-Hamas crap is now back and in full swing, y'all. These people are actually taking over college campuses and putting up, like, independent zones, right? Like, autonomous zones, essentially, to, you know, there's been several arrests. There's been all kinds of BS going on, and it's just getting outright crazy. And what do we have in the news? Tabloid publisher pledged to be eyes and ears for Trump's 2016 campaign. Now, I've been waiting a while for this, right? Like, ever since this indictment was announced. I've been really curious because, you know, he said he was charging him with a crime. He was elevating it to a felony, right? But then he didn't state what the underlying crime to elevate this crime to a felony was, right? Like, to elevate it to a felony, you has to be committed while doing another crime, essentially, so then you can take that crime and elevate it even higher because they were doing something else criminal, right? So, but he never stated what that was. I wonder why that is. Maybe this whole thing is BS, right? Like, the whole thing is not a crime, essentially, but he's trying to turn a non-crime, maybe something maybe underhanded, you know, maybe you shouldn't do, but it's not a crime. I'm trying to take that and turn it into a crime by, oh, it was false paperwork, y'all. Yeah, it was false paperwork. But, you know, the trial started and opening statements came out and the opening arguments, and we got our first witness testimony. And, yeah, I'm confused quite a bit as far as what the crime here is. Check it out, y'all. A veteran tabloid publisher testified today that he pledged to be Donald Trump's eyes and ears during his 2016 presidential campaign, recounting how he promised the then candidate that he would help suppress stories that had the potential to harm the Republicans' election bid. The testimony from David Pecker was designed to bolster prosecutors' assertions of a decades-long friendship between Trump and the former publisher of the National Enquirer that culminated in an agreement to give the candidate a heads up on negative tips and stories so they could be quashed. Right, is this even a crime? Like, why is this guy here? Why is this guy testifying? That's not a crime. I'm sorry. Every single political candidate does this. As a matter of fact, corporations do it too, to keep bad press out of the press. Nobody wants negative opinions made about them. So yeah, sure, they're going to try to stop any negative stories. Since when did that become a crime, y'all? Like, Alvin Bragg, this is such the biggest waste of time, in my opinion. If you ask me, it's the biggest waste of time I think I've ever seen, right? Like, he won't state the underlying crime, and he's trying to say it was filed paperwork for this, right? Like, paying off a porn star to keep her mouth shut, that's not a crime either, right? Like, people do this all the time, even without getting paid. It's called an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. Yeah, these are commonplace, and it's not illegal to do this, right? Like, now, if he could prove that Donald Trump took campaign funds and directly paid her, maybe there's something there that you could get with some sort of election campaign fund crime here, but hang on, that's not what he's charging him with. He's charging him, it's just outright insanity on this case. And we've even got, like, CNN and all these places, like, this case is a big nothing burger, but the media is trying to pump this thing up like it's the biggest thing since sliced bread. And I do mean since sliced bread, right? Like, because sliced bread is awesome.
What?
Sorry, I just had to throw that out there. You know, I used to love bread until I figured out that, you know, carbs ain't really so good for you. Now I'm trying to cut all the carbs out, you know, which is maybe a good idea. At least that's what health experts say. But I'm not trying to get off on a tangent. I just wanted to throw that in there right quick. But it seems to me like, especially how the press is covering this, they're going completely freaking nuts over this, right? Like, I don't know if you guys have actually noticed, right? Like, they go to the extent of filming his commute to the courthouse, right? Like, they got cameras located all over the place on his route there, filming his car go by. Like, I've shown videos of that before, like him when he showed up in Atlanta for the Fani Willis trial thing, right? Like, when he showed up to get that, you know, the famous mug shot or whatever, he shows up and you got people lining the damn streets yelling, "Yay, go Trump, free Trump," and all this other stuff, right? Like, totally backfiring on the mainstream narrative machine. Completely backfiring on the mainstream narrative machine. And so it's like, why? Why are you filming his route to the courthouse? And that's what they're doing. Like, they had one, I saw a video of the guy analyzing a damn sketch of Donald Trump. You know, a sketch from him in the courthouse, right? Like, they were fawning over Donald Trump falling asleep in the courthouse. It's like, they, you know, article after article, you know, story after story of, oh, Donald Trump's old too. Look, Joe Biden's not the only one who's old. Look, now, Donald Trump is old too. He's falling asleep, folks. He can't keep his head straight, right? Like, wouldn't you be bored out of your mind, too, during jury selection, right? Like, I'm not trying to take up for Trump. He's old, y'all. He's really old, but he's still there. He's a lot more there than Joe Biden is. Like, Joe Biden had a very big gaffe today, if you will. And, you know, I'm going to cover that on my next video, so make sure and hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so, you know, when that does pop up, you'll get to see it. But the mainstream narrative machine is absolutely doing everything they can to boost Trump in the polls. That's what it seems like to me, because covering stuff like a sketch, like, really? You're covering a sketch of Trump sitting in the courtroom, right? Like, and it's nonstop coverage of this crap. Like, it's been nonstop coverage. Of course, this is kind of an unprecedented case, if you will, because it's a former president being criminally charged for what? Like, somebody please explain the crime once again. Like, what really is the crime here? Like, we don't know. We don't know what the underlying crime is to elevate this to a felony, because otherwise it would be a misdemeanor, you know, a freaking slap on the wrist, maybe get some probation, maybe a fine, maybe not. You never know. But it just, all this insanity over Trump going to court. Oh, we've got him now, right? Like, then they're putting these polls out like I covered yesterday. Oh, in a 5-way race, Biden wins, y'all. Like, according to an NBC poll, by the way, right? Like, they probably only polled, like, anti-Trumpers here. Just to put out the narrative that Trump is bad, y'all. Orange Man bad. Definitely believe that. Believe Orange Man is bad, because Orange Man bad. Look at what Orange Man did. Orange Man did this. Orange Man took this route to the courthouse because former Orange Man is bad. And it's just like outright insanity. I'm sorry, I had that rant. I wanted to get that off the chest. Let's keep going with the story. No, God! Pecker is the first witness in Trump's historic hush money trial in Manhattan, where he faces 34 counts of falsifying business records in connection with payments meant to prevent harmful stories from surfacing during the final days of the 2016 campaign. The stories included a porn actor's claim of an extramarital sexual encounter a decade earlier, which, by the way, in case nobody knows this, which I'm sure everybody knows it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway, just because I'm out here running my mouth, that even she denied it. Now, do we know if she denied it because of the payment? You never know. Who cares? The effort to suppress unflattering information was designed to influence the election, prosecutors have alleged, in seeking to elevate the gravity of the first trial of a former American president. So apparently that everything, once again, just like with the fraud of the fraud trial, something that everybody does all the time, right? Like all political candidates always do this. They always want to stop any negative press and promote positive press, right? So apparently now that because it's Donald Trump, because Trump did it, it's now illegal to do. Do you see what's going on here, folks? Do you see what the government, what the Biden administration, what these insane, communistic, postmodern Democrats are doing to this country? They are destroying it. Non-hyperbolically destroying it. Yeah, I will say that. Non-hyperbolic destruction. That's exactly what they're doing. Because doing this, right, like charging somebody for something that everybody does, trying to twist something into a crime, right? Like apparently what they're saying or what they're trying to insinuate with this is that him trying to stop negative press is the underlying crime, to elevate it to a felony. I guess because that's what it sounded like to me. Is that the corporate press's narrative? They're just trying to make it sound that way? Is it maybe a misunderstanding on their part? Or maybe it's just a coincidence? But you know what? I say there's never, ever, ever many coincidences when it comes to politics. You don't ever get coincidences because we generally find out later that, oh, that was done on purpose. Pecker described for jurors a pivotal August 2015 meeting at Trump Tower involving Trump, his lawyers, and personal fixer Michael Cohen, and another aide, Hope Hicks, in which he was asked what he and the magazines he led could do for the campaign. Pecker said he volunteered to publish positive stories about Trump and negative stories about his opponent. But that wasn't all, he said, telling jurors how he told Trump, "I will be your eyes and ears. I said that anything I hear in the marketplace, if I hear anything negative about yourself, or if I hear about women selling stories, I would notify Michael Cohen so that the rights could be purchased and the stories could be killed. So they would not get published," asked prosecutor Joshua Steinglass. "So they would not get published," Pecker replied. Pecker's resumption of testimony today followed a hearing earlier in the day in which prosecutors urged Judge Juan Merchan to hold Trump in contempt and fine him $1,000 for each of his 10 social media posts that they say violated an earlier gag order barring attacks on witnesses, jurors, and other involved in the case. I want to take issue with that gag order, by the way. Like, why are they gag ordering Trump? Right, because they know he runs his mouth a lot. And they know that he puts the truth out there a lot of times. And he tells it like it is. They don't want him talking, by the way. Look at what they did in the fraud trial. It's nothing but gag order after gag order after gag order. I know that's common, but I don't think they should gag order anybody on any trial for any reason, right? Especially not the defendant, because they do have a right to defend themselves. And if they are being wrongfully accused of something, hey, they have every right to get out there on social media and talk about it. Merchan did not immediately rule, but he seemed skeptical of a defense lawyer's arguments that Trump was merely responding in his post to others' attacks and had been trying to comply with the order. The hearing could result in additional financial punishment for Trump, who last year was fined $15,000 for twice violating a gag order imposed at his New York civil fraud trial. The fraud trial, right? The fraud of a fraud trial. But whether it deters him from future incendiary comments or instead serves to provoke even more posts is an open question. The presumptive Republican nominee has thrust his legal jeopardy into the center of his presidential campaign as he lambasts this case and 3 others he faces as examples of political persecution. You know what? From his perspective, it is a political persecution. You know what? From my perspective, it is a political persecution as well. The only one that I find any merit to whatsoever is the documents case, right? I think there's a legitimate argument over who had some of those documents. Now, I don't know exactly what was in those documents. I do know that supposedly there was some national security secrets, right? Like if it's genuine, like nuclear secrets or stuff like that, you know, sure, maybe Trump shouldn't have that.
I would want to know exactly what those documents are before we go on saying, if Trump could have that or not. That's why I think the trial will be a good thing, so we can see what that was like. Was it something that was pertinent to national security that, and a former president shouldn't have? But, by the way, he does have Secret Service protections, which, speaking of that, now you got Democrats in the House introducing bills to eliminate Secret Service protection for anybody who gets criminally charged and prosecuted and found guilty of any felonies. Obviously intending to go after Trump to take his Secret Service protection away. But you know what that does? At the same time, that will also refuse Secret Service protection for Hunter Biden.
Whoopsie. So
Pecker's testimony began Monday after opening statements that offered the 12-person jury, and just as important, the voting public, radically divergent roadmaps for a case that will unfold against the backdrop of a closely contested White House race in which Trump is not only the presumptive Republican nominee, but also a criminal defendant facing the prospect of a felony conviction in prison. Prosecutors allege that Trump sought to illegally influence the 2016 race through a practice known in the tabloid industry as catch and kill, catching a potentially damaging story by buying the rights to it and then killing it through agreements that prevent the paid person from telling the story to anyone else. In this case, that included a $130,000 payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to silence her claims of an extramarital sexual encounter that Trump denies, that she also denies, by the way. Defense lawyer Todd Blanche countered by assailing the government's case and attacking Cohen's integrity, right? Like, we know that Cohen is a big liar. He's perjured himself several times, went to prison for perjuring himself, by the way. President Trump is innocent. President Trump did not commit any crimes. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office should have never brought this case, he said. Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, a charge punishable by up to 4 years in prison, though it's not clear if the judge would seek to put him behind bars. A conviction would not preclude Trump from becoming president again, but because it is a state case, he would not be able to pardon himself if found guilty. He has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. Besides the payments to Daniels, Colangelo also described arrangements to pay for former Playboy model $150,000 to suppress claims of a nearly year-long affair with the married Trump. Colangelo said Trump desperately did not want this information about Karen McDougal to become public because he was worried about its effect on the election. You know what? Obviously, right? But, as far as I know, that's not a crime. Oh, and how about Hillary Clinton making up stuff, just completely making up an entire story, getting the government to get behind that story, all to take down Donald Trump. Oh, apparently that's not a crime. But you go over there trying to shut some people up. Oh, that's a crime. Yeah, that's an outright crime. You're wanting to suppress bad stories. Yeah, that's a crime. No, this is all BS. We all know it's BS. It fires me up, gets me pissed off because look what they're doing just to take this guy down, right? Like the deep state is in full swing, folks. Look, and like they said, he can't pardon himself. Is that the reason why all these cases are state cases? Like, not all of them, but, you got the Fani Willis case and then you got this case. They're state cases, so he can't pardon himself, right? Like, is that why Fani Willis and Alvin Bragg went to the White House and talked to the Biden administration, talked to Kamala Harris? Fani Willis did. Alvin Bragg also went to the White House, and that they got together with the White House staff and said, what should we do here? And then they brought the charges against Trump after those meetings. So it's like, what's really going on here, folks? Yeah, you see what's going on. It's all bullshit. We can all see it's bullshit. And they're putting this man through the ringer. And what's so surprising is he's still getting up there and fighting. And he's fighting really good. As a matter of fact, from what I can tell, he's doing a damn good job. He's still going on the campaign trail. This judge is outright insane, if you ask me, forcing him to be at this trial like he is, getting Wednesdays off or whatever, so he goes campaigns on Wednesday. But it's like, what are these people doing? These people are just nuts, folks. And, that's all I got on this. And I'm going to just run my mouth here for a little bit. But, what has our country come to when you will get the full force of the freaking government just to take one man down, making up crimes, right? Like, but hang on, they won't go after people who they've got red-handed, right? Like Hillary Clinton. You know, two things with Hillary Clinton that we know for sure. You know, she had classified documents and she destroyed cell phones, hard drives, and all this other stuff to keep them from getting the information that was on it, right? Like smashing phones with hammers would work to keep them from getting that information, right? Like, no, that's not going to work. So she knew it was wrong and intentionally destroyed this stuff, right? Like, or she had other people do it. She didn't physically do it herself. But then you got the whole Russian hoax, right? Like the Steele dossier and all this other stuff, right? Like completely made up. We know it was completely made up, all to sabotage Donald Trump's campaign. Right? So in the face of that, you've got Donald Trump trying to suppress negative stories because they're making shit up. And he knows that. So it's like, what are we doing there, folks? Like, we don't go after actual criminals, and then we go after somebody who is actually trying to do good for the country, who's trying to make this country great again, who's totally just America first, like, why are we involved in all these foreign wars and all this other bullshit? Wants to put America's interests first, right? Like, it's got a large following, a huge following, right? People love this dude. And all they're doing is just making him more and more popular. I've said it 1,000 times, right? Like, you know, after January 6th, I was like, man, this sucks. You know, I just want Trump to go away, kind of. But once they started all these damn political persecutions, man, it's like, no, I ain't having this, because I see where this leads, right? Like, I know a lot about the communist revolution, which there's a lot of signs that we're in a communist revolution right now, and I am not going down with that communist revolution. I'm going to stand up and fight and push back, and that's what we all need to do. We all need to push back, right? Whether you like Trump, whether you hate Trump, because I know some of you guys out there do hate Trump. Whether you like him or hate him, you know this is BS. And you know that if they can do it to Trump, they can do it to just about anybody. And we can't allow this to happen. We can't allow this to go through. We've got to put a stop to it somehow. But that's all I got for this one, you guys. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. You know, is this the most BS court case that you've ever heard in your entire life? Or do you think that somehow that's legitimate? But let me know what you think down in the comments section. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.